Thank you guys for tuning in to a very special wild card edition of the Football Game Tonight podcast. I'm your host, John Kuzma, and we had a couple of great games that took place tonight. First, we had the Texans blowing out the Browns, and then we had the Chiefs beating the Dolphins in a cold, very, very cold game there in Kansas City. So we're going to talk about the Chiefs game, and, right away, I thought Isaiah Pacheco came out and set the tone in this game. On that opening drive, he had a really nice big run that got the Chiefs down near the goal line, and then Patrick Mahomes finds Rashee Rice on the crossing route. I can't put into words how big it was that the Chiefs were able to go out and score right away in this game. Isaiah Pacheco sets the tone, gets them down into scoring range. Patrick Mahomes hits Rashee Rice. And in a game that had really bad conditions, it was brutal out there. I mean, people's beers were freezing before they could drink them at the stadium. That's how cold it was in this game. So to be able to go out there and score right away, that was so big for the Chiefs in this game. It wasn't just Isaiah Pacheco setting the tone. It was the team as a whole setting the tone and basically sending a message to the Dolphins that you're coming into our house and you're going to have a dogfight on your hands, because this is not going to be easy for you guys. And we're going to come out, we're going to score right away, let you know that we're not playing any games. It's going to be tough if you want to walk out of here with a W. And because of that early touchdown and because of Isaiah Pacheco and the team setting the tone in this game, the Chiefs were able to get out to a lead, then never really look back. I thought Patrick Mahomes was great in this game. I thought he was very poised, did a great job of work in the middle of the field, hit Travis Kelce right out of the gate, hit Travis Kelce on a few more catches over the middle of the field. I saw him hit Marquez Valdes-Scantling over the middle of the field. Rashee Rice had a lot of crossing routes, had a slant route. So Patrick Mahomes did a good job of just hitting dots over the middle of the field all night long on this Dolphins defense. It was a great showing for Patrick Mahomes. The other thing is, you looked at his footwork in this game. It was crisp. It was crisp all night long. And for someone that's played football their whole life, someone who's coached football, you know how important a quarterback's footwork is, because it's basically kinetic energy. You're transferring kinetic energy throughout your throws. And when you have perfect footwork and your weight distribution is perfect, what you're doing is you're transferring the kinetic energy throughout your throws more efficiently, which puts more zip on your throws, which causes you to be more accurate when you throw the football. So Patrick Mahomes, sometimes he gets sloppy when he's struggling. You'll notice he gets a little bit sloppier with his footwork. He's a little out of sync. He's not as crisp. That wasn't the case tonight at all. He was at his best in this game, really doing a good job of getting his guys involved, spreading the football to all his playmakers, going to multiple tight ends in this game, because the Chiefs like to tap into those three tight ends that they have. So just good work all around by Patrick Mahomes in this game. And you can see the difference when he's playing good and when, he's struggling a little bit. It goes back to his footwork and him, trusting what they practice every single day, trusting those steps, whatever it is, a deep ball, a 7-step drop, maybe it's a quick pass where he just hitches and throws. He did a good job in this game of making sure his feet were always under him, and then, driving off that back foot and making a lot of throws. Very poised in this game. Showed up in a big way. Wasn't, detrimental to his team at all. It was the complete opposite. He was really dialed in. You could tell he was in the zone, and he wasn't about to let one get away from him in the Chiefs' home stadium in a wild card matchup against the Dolphins. Like I said, the conditions were a huge obstacle for both teams in this game. So for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco to execute like they did a good job of not letting the conditions hold their team back. Because if you start off slow and you never really get in a rhythm, and you're trying to find that rhythm the whole night, that's the type of game that slips away from you. That's kind of what happened, to the Dolphins. They eventually got Tyreek Hill for a touchdown, but there really wasn't nothing there. And, Tua Tagovailoa couldn't get the rest of his guys going. We didn't really see much from Jalen Waddle in this game. Tyreek Hill had the touchdown, but I thought the Chiefs did a good job of putting the clamps on Tyreek Hill in this game. Some of those guys practice against Tyreek Hill a lot, so they're more familiar with his game than some of those other defensive backs will be. You look at L'Jarius Sneed, he was great in this game. McDuffie had a big hit for the Chiefs defense. So some good performances on the defensive side of the ball for some of those players. One guy we really have to talk about that took over this game, was probably the best player in the whole entire game, was Rashee Rice. And he is becoming a huge contributing factor for this Chiefs offense and what he did in this game. You look at who was in this game: Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Travis Kelce. Rashee Rice was better than all those guys. He was the best player in this game. He was the best receiver in this game. And man, the amount of progress he's been able to make in this first year as a rookie, to go from where he was at the beginning of the year to being, he's, at least tonight in this game, he was the number one option for the Chiefs offense. And I think this might be the evolution of the Chiefs offense. Travis Kelce is getting older. And when you're starting to get into the twilight of your career, guess what? Those hits start to add up. And they start to take a toll on you. So Travis Kelce was more of the number two option for this offense. Now, don't get me wrong. Travis Kelce's such a good player. He could bounce back and easily be the number one option for this offense for another 5 years. But tonight, that wasn't the case. It was Rashee Rice. And maybe we're going to see more of the Chiefs offense flow through Rashee Rice. And that's the direction that this team heads into the future, where Travis Kelce's the number two option and he chips in here and there. And that's how they prolong Travis Kelce's career, because they can actually keep him healthier by taking less hits. Because remember, when you're a tight end and you're working the middle of the field, you take a lot of big hits from linebackers. You take a lot of big hits from those safeties. It just comes with the territory when you have to do most of your damage over the middle of the field. So Travis Kelce is no stranger to those hits. He's been popped a lot. So maybe that's what we see the Chiefs do heading forward. They pivot a little bit. They let the young guy, Rashee Rice, be the number one option in the offense and let the offense flow through him, because he's younger and his body is more fresh than Travis Kelce's body is. And, just because they have the young guy that can handle that workload that Travis Kelce has done for so many years, I mean, there's no hanging your head being the number two receiver in this offense if you're Travis Kelce. None whatsoever. There's no hanging your head whatsoever, because you've carried that offense for so many years. You've taken those big hits for so many years. You've delivered Super Bowls for this team. You've been the best tight end in football, maybe the best tight end ever. So there's no shame in letting the young guy, Rashee Rice, step up and, carry the torch a little bit. He certainly did that in this game. I mean, the crossing route early for a touchdown. He had another big crossing route on third down, 3rd and 10, I think it was. Patrick Mahomes found him over the middle. Rashee Rice was great, the best receiver in this game. And this game is going to go a long way for his confidence. You don't think he's going to be coming into next week on cloud 9 after what he just did? You're crazy if that's the case. He's going to be feeling good. He's going to be thinking to himself, okay, I can not only have success at this level, I can dominate. I can dominate the National Football League because I went into a playoff game against one of the better teams in the NFL and the Dolphins. All these teams are good at this point. They're the best teams in the league. That's why they're in the playoffs. And to take over a playoff game as a rookie, I mean, look at this guy's trajectory at this point. To have that kind of success in his first playoff game and to make the strides that he's made in the rookie season, and the way we've seen him really come on at the end of the season, end of the regular season, and now in the playoffs, come on, man. This guy has so much confidence right now. You know that's the case. And what do you know? The Chiefs have hit on another draft pick. They're so good at scouting these players. Andy Reid has such a keen eye for talent. I always think about like finding Kareem Hunt later on. I think it was the third round the Chiefs got him out of Toledo. I mean, the Chiefs can spot a player no matter where he's going. And, even if they have to go to the mid or late round to find a player, they can spot a ball player that can help this football team. Rashee Rice is just the latest example of it. You look at all these rookies at the wide receiver position this past year, and there's some pretty good ones. Rashee Rice is right up there, and he's the guy that's doing it in the playoffs too. We'll see how some of these other guys do. You got Flowers for the Ravens, going to be in a playoff game here eventually. We'll see how he steps up. But I think as far as rookie wide receivers go, Rashee Rice is feeling pretty good right now because he went into that football game and really put his stamp on that game in a big playoff win in the wild card. Yeah, the Chiefs had to go a little bit longer route this year to get to the Super Bowl. They had to play in the wild card, and they had to do it against the Dolphins. But they get it done. Rashee Rice steps up in front of the home crowd with brutal conditions to be able to deliver that game for his team. That's a promising moment for the rookie, and I just can't say enough good things about what he was able to do in this football game. Rashee Rice, keep an eye on that guy because he's going to keep making big plays for this offense, and I think, we're just getting familiar with him, and we're just getting familiar with his game. There's a lot more to come from Rashee Rice. We have to talk about how physical the Chiefs were in this game. They were more physical on both sides of the ball than the Dolphins were. That was clear as day in this football game. The Dolphins offense really couldn't get anything going. They were going against that tough Chiefs defense, led by Steve Spagnuolo. We all know how good they've been recently. There wasn't much there for the Dolphins offense. Like I said, outside of the Tyreek Hill touchdown, they just couldn't get it going. They were having a tough time creating anything. Tua Tagovailoa was not very sharp in this game at all. Didn't really finish the season strong at all. And, in I believe it was his first playoff game, they really collapsed. And Mike McDaniel, the coach of the Dolphins, for how promising he's been drawing plays up and being creative for this offense, nothing there from him either. A lot of, just screen passes that weren't really going for anything. Tua Tagovailoa couldn't throw the ball down the field very well outside of that play to Tyreek Hill. It wasn't the performance they were looking for at all. And then maybe because the Dolphins were missing so many key players on defense with all those injuries they have, they just couldn't match up with the Chiefs' high-powered offense. And the Chiefs looked high-powered again in this game, which was a little surprising with how cold it was. Sometimes those receivers' hands are frozen. They can't catch the ball as well. I didn't really see that too much from the Chiefs. Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, they were making catches for Patrick Mahomes, and they were, just finding a way to haul it in, bring it in, despite the fact that it was easy to have drops with how bad the weather was. We could have easily seen some drops and some receivers getting alligator arms because they don't want to take hits because, let's face it, you're more brittle when it's cold. You are. That's just a fact. Rashee Rice had a catch near the sideline and he got up, a little bit slow and, it looked like maybe his hamstring was cramping a little bit. When you're dealing with that cold of an environment, your body changes a little bit. You get a little tense. You get a little brittle. You are a little bit reluctant to take a hit. Most NFL players and most people that play football will lie to you, but it does creep into your head a little bit when it's that cold. It's just a fact, and that goes for everybody. I thought Patrick Mahomes also did a good job running the ball in this game. I think one play we have to talk about is when his helmet broke. I actually think the Chiefs could have scored more points in this game if Patrick Mahomes' helmet didn't break. Patrick Mahomes breaks off a big gain. It's so cold that he takes a hit at the end of the run and his helmet breaks. And he's trying to just keep playing. I don't know if he even realized that his helmet was broke, but he's trying to keep playing, and the ref steps in and he's got to change helmets. And anybody that's played football knows that your helmet has to be fine-tuned a little bit. You got to let some air out of it. You got to tighten up your chin straps. You got to get it just perfect so that you feel comfortable wearing that helmet. And, you could tell Patrick Mahomes puts on the backup helmet, and, his teammates are trying to help him in the huddle, make sure it's strapped up right. When he goes to the line, he doesn't even have his right strap strapped up. I don't think he was comfortable with his helmet yet. And really what that is, it's a distraction because you're having a really good drive. The ref says you have to change your helmet. You change your helmet. Now you're trying to fix your helmet so you can get it to the point where you're comfortable wearing it. And, what happens is the Chiefs don't score a touchdown, and they actually had to settle for a field goal. I think if the rest would have let Patrick Mahomes finish the drive with the bad helmet and then changed helmets when the defense was on the field, when he had, some time on the sidelines to adjust it, I think the Chiefs would have scored that touchdown there. But for safety reasons, obviously the refs had to make you change the helmet right away. Player safety is number one. That's the most important thing. So they send them to get the backup helmet. I think that was a little bit of a distraction for Patrick Mahomes. I think he was a little uncomfortable with the helmet, just getting it and putting it on. And, his teammates were trying to help him. I think that actually hurt the Chiefs' drive. I think they would have scored a touchdown if that didn't happen. They had to settle for 3 points. So I actually think the Chiefs left some points on the table a little bit and could have actually had an even more convincing win in this game if, it's not so cold and that helmet doesn't break. That's just a reality of the situation. Some people might not agree with that. I completely disagree. I think in a situation where it's a little bit warmer, I don't think that helmet breaks. I don't think the drive stalls out, and I don't think they lose the momentum when Patrick Mahomes has to run to the sideline, get another helmet, kind of trying to figure out, how to get this thing, so it doesn't affect him. And he, to Patrick Mahomes' credit, is so poised. He's just like, screw it. I'm going to focus on the next play and just try to make this thing happen. But it didn't work out for the Chiefs. They didn't score. They had to settle for a field goal. Hey, it is what it is. In these playoff games, it's a different level of competition. Everybody turns it up a notch. And even though the Dolphins weren't very impressive in this win, the Chiefs were so laser focused that, they were doing everything they can to just keep their foot on the gas, not let the Dolphins back into this game. But because of the broken helmet, they did have a play slip away from them. Other things I have to take away from this game, another Chiefs win, they go marching on to the next round. I think, no matter what the outcome is, for this Chiefs team, it's big because, they had some struggles early on in the regular season. And there was a point where we're kind of questioning the wide receivers. Are these wide receivers good enough to help this Chiefs team, stay in the hunt and be good enough to compete for a Super Bowl? I think, with the emergence of Rashee Rice, with Travis Kelce still being able to help them, I think they've kind of found their identity on offense, and I think they've kind of figured it out. Rashee Rice has really stepped up and filled the void for the Chiefs offense, as far as having a playmaker that can, make something happen for this offense. Last year, they won the Super Bowl and they had like Juju Smith-Schuster, but Travis Kelce was really just dominating and all the offense was flowing through him. So that's how they won it last year. They lost Juju Smith-Schuster, and Kadarius Toney was dealing with drops. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, he's a deep threat, but he really isn't too polished at the other stuff. So they're just using him as a vertical threat to get a big play every now and then for Patrick Mahomes. So they had that opening on the offensive side of the ball, with Tyreek Hill not there anymore. Who was going to be the guy? Rashee Rice, answered some questions for this offense. And, for a team that had a lot of question marks in the regular season, to get it figured out, to win a playoff game, and suddenly, have an understanding of how they can get to another Super Bowl, how it's going to look like, what they have to do, and the things that they have to execute on to be able to win these playoff games. I think we learned a lot about the Chiefs in this game. Isaiah Pacheco, late in the game when he scored another touchdown, he did like a reverse pivot and almost handed the ball off to Patrick Mahomes, kept it himself, kind of got hit by two defenders and pushed the pile in for a touchdown. I think, a lot of this offense has to go through Pacheco. He's going to handle things as far as the running game goes, set the tone early on in this game. I think he can be depended on for this offense. I think it goes back to Patrick Mahomes and his dedication to the fundamentals with his footwork and his poise and, how well he can see the middle of the field. I mean, how many passes over the middle did he have? Did great work. And then Rashee Rice is the guy that, is going to be the number one. He's a guy that is doing serious damage on crossing routes, multiple crossing routes in this game. On one play, I think the Dolphins sent like an all-out blitz where it was like cover zero, and Rashee Rice, I think, ran a slant route and made a nice catch. So he's clearly comfortable going over the middle of the field, does not have any fear that he's going to take a big shot from a linebacker. He trusts his hands. He trusts himself to make the play. So can't say enough good things about Rashee Rice. And then, Travis Kelce. Once Travis Kelce starts to, flip that switch and starts peaking at the right time too, then you have Rashee Rice peaking. You have Travis Kelce peaking. You have Patrick Mahomes peaking. Isaiah Pacheco's playing out of his mind. That's the Chiefs Super Bowl right there. When all those different cylinders are firing, that's the way to a Chiefs Super Bowl. That's what we learned about this team in this game. Convincing win. The elements didn't matter. Andy Reid gets another big playoff win. He's had a lot in his career. And, I mean, when you talk about the ability to draw up plays and the ability to have his team execute those plays and the coordination that goes into all that, because you never want to run a play in a game that you don't practice a lot in practice, because you get a feel for the play when you practice it over and over again in a game. I think Andy Reid has done a great job of putting together so many plays that the Chiefs feel comfortable running. And then you get down to the goal line, and Andy Reid has this bag of tricks where he's going into, old game films and picking out plays from old game films where these teams run these trick plays on the goal line just to add another wrinkle to the offense, just something else that the defense has to game plan for. And tonight in this game, it was Isaiah Pacheco play where he was under center, reverse pivoted, faked the handoff to Patrick Mahomes. And why the defense has to respect that is because if they hand it off to Patrick Mahomes, obviously he's on the run and he can throw it to someone. And it's almost kind of like it's a handoff. It kind of feels like a double pass, but it's not a double pass because it's actually a handoff. And then Patrick Mahomes on the run throws it to someone on a crossing route like Travis Kelce for a touchdown. But instead, Pacheco fakes the handoff. He keeps it, still has his momentum from the reverse pivot, and just takes off around the left end, runs for it, gets hit by a couple of defenders, keeps those legs chopping, gets in the end zone for a touchdown. That's Andy Reid drawing something up near the goal line that's going to give his team an advantage in a football game and slightly tilt the odds in his team's favor. How many times has he done that since he's been the head coach of this team? I mean, they've really, over the past, I would say 4 or 5 years, really turned it up and really got creative down by the goal line and just were finding old plays from like a 1956 Rose Bowl, a 1956 Rose Bowl where they're, just looking at old game film and trying to find a play that can help them. That's what the Chiefs do. They dive into old game films. They're football junkies, so to say. They just love, just finding anything that can help them. Okay, this worked back then. Maybe it'll work again just because the way the defense flows, then this opens up and we can take advantage of it. That's what we're seeing from the Chiefs offense. They did it with Isaiah Pacheco in this game. We've seen him do it a lot down by the goal line. So Andy Reid always does a good job of getting his guys ready to play. He seems to do it with his X and O's and just how creative he is on the offensive side of the ball. The best in the business at dialing it up on offense. And, he scores another big playoff win. That's all I got for this latest episode of the Football Game Tonight show. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Check out footballgametonight.com if you're an advertiser and you want to advertise on this podcast. I'm John Kuzma. Thank you guys so much for listening.